In this tutorial, I'll talk about Redis cluster. A stable version of Redis cluster was introduced in Redis version 3. Redis cluster is a data sharding solution with automatic management, failover, and replication. Data sharding is a method to break up a big database into many smaller parts. It is the process of breaking up a database across multiple machines to enhance the manageability, availability, performance, and load balancing of an application. The reason for data sharding is that after a certain scale point, it's cheaper and more attainable to scale horizontally by adding more machines than to grow it vertically by adding beefer servers. Generally, cluster mode provides similar high availability to Sentinel mode, but the shardings allows more data to be stored in the cluster. Cluster improves the scalability of your application as data continue to grow. How does Redis cluster work? In a cluster mode, nodes talk to each other all the time, so they are aware of each other. Unlike Sentinel, there is no dedicated monitoring facility. Every Redis cluster node requires two TCP connections open. The standard Redis TCP port used to serve clients, for example, 6379, plus the port obtained by adding 10,000 to the data port, so 16,379 in this example. The port 16,379 is used for a cluster bus, which allows node-to-node communication. Nodes use the cluster bus for failure detection, configuration update, failover authorization, and so forth. The cluster maintains its state by itself. Let's assume this is a cluster of 3 masters. Each master has one slave, which used to replicate the master. All nodes communicate with each other through the cluster bus. Once you set up a cluster, the cluster will have a sharding, which means once you add a key to Redis, a hash slot gets calculated. Primarily, Redis calculates the slot where the key is going to land by taking the SRC16 of the key, module 16384. SRC is cyclic redundancy check function. By finding the hash slot for the keys, your data will automatically be spread across all those 3 nodes. In a given Redis cluster, there are 16,384 slots available. In this example, the first master node in the cluster will have a hash slots from 0 to 5,500, and the second master node in the cluster contains a hash slots from 5,501 to 11,000. And the third master node in the cluster contains a hash slots from 11,001 to 16,383. On another note, you can pin your keys to a specific slot to make sure you know where they land. This process is called the hash tags. To know more about Redis cluster, please read the cluster tutorial from Redis documentation, redis.io/topics/cluster-tutorial.